Welcome to the Berman Hour. Welcome to a special weekend edition of the Berman Hour. My name is Jeff Berman. I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. It's good to be with you. My guest today, there's a delivery man outside delivering some KFC, but not to my apartment, unfortunately. But there's maybe he is. Anyway, today we have our first guest from the mainland continent of Europe. Last Saturday we had Carrie Ann Heritage from England. There you are, Carrie. Good to see you. Today we have Finlay Davey, who is a friend of mine from Liechtenstein. I am so excited to talk. So many kind of nerdy questions about Liechtenstein that I'm going to bombard him with, and we're going to see how we can get this going. So, waiting for Finlay to come in. I'm going to take a swig of the black stuff.
Yes.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hi, man. How are you?
I'm good. Technology works. This is great. I can hear you. I can see you. Can you hear me and see me all right?
I can hear you and see you just fine.
Yes. All right. Wonderful. You are currently in Liechtenstein, correct? You're in your apartment?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Under the castle of the prince. You know, with our mere mortal apartments.
Your apartment's very nice. I appreciate the hospitality when you had me stay there a few months ago.
Anytime, man.
Yeah, and I know that if I remember correctly, Jason and I kept you up asking about all of these questions and stuff. But I'm curious, are you from that part of Europe originally, or are you from somewhere else?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a long and twisted story, isn't it? So my mum's from England.
Right.
I was born in Germany, in Munich. Then we moved to Italy for 18 months. So my dad's German, but I never met him. So then we moved to Italy for 18 months to live with my godfathers, which is like a big gay community down in Italy in Torino.
Is it
And then
literally
we
called the
moved to Liechtenstein.
Godfathers?
Well, no, they're
Okay.
just, one of them was my godfather, and they all
Yeah.
fought for like who could put me to bed, who was allowed to feed me, and all that kind of stuff. So my mum was
Did
like, "Do whatever you want, as long like I'm going to work, and so you can just mess around with him." And
yeah.
so yeah, I grew up in that kind of environment as well. And then my mum got a job offer in Liechtenstein because she used to be a squash professional, one of the first like squash professionals out there. And
Like
she got a job
squash
offer in Liechtenstein. Yeah, like fucking.
the game?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so she was a squash professional and coach for 25 years.
Wow.
And then she started coaching me when I was, let's say a late teen. And then I managed to work my way up all the way to the European junior circuit and stuff. So it was good fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Uh, can you give us a little bit of a background on Liechtenstein? Most people don't know where it is or that it
Ah,
exists,
yeah.
and they don't know
So
what a micronation is. I very much appreciate the history lesson. I know you get asked this all the time by everybody that you ever work with in the music industry. But
yeah, I mean, so yeah, Liechtenstein is one of those, most touring musicians will have passed it a million times, but not realized it. So it's very small country between Austria and Switzerland, just south of the German border as well, and only about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive to the Italian border. And it's only something like, oh my God, I've got people on here from Liechtenstein, so they will correct me if I'm wrong. It's only something like 20 kilometers long or something like that. So, and we
yeah,
don't have a motorway, a highway. So like you drive on the Swiss motorway and within 20 minutes, you have completely passed the entire country. And so most people, it's like, oh, look, that's Liechtenstein, it's gone.
that's happened to me 3 times where I've been driving by it, and I'll be like, "Oh, we should go." I'll be like, "Well, no, we don't have time or whatever, and be like, but that's it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, and it's gone. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and so it's a principality, like a yeah. There is a prince, um, but we also do have a democratic parliament. But yeah, he kind of still has the veto on stuff, and he's a bit of a homophobic dick. So no shout outs to him today.
Yeah. Uh, Another reason why he gets no shout out is Jason and I tried to knock on his door. We drove up to the top of the hill,
Yeah,
and he wouldn't have us. We
ice
figured,
cold. Fuck you,
well,
dude.
yeah, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Well, the last time I went by Liechtenstein, I was able to go there thanks to you, and play at a place called the Black Pearl in December. So I get to kind of check Liechtenstein off of my proverbial bucket list of places to tour and play. Um, and I played, kind of a typical smaller singer-songwriter show. We had a good time. It was definitely great hospitality, and everything was great. But your background and my background are kind of similar in the punk and hardcore worlds. What was your experience like getting into that style of music? Did you get into it while you were living in Liechtenstein, or did that happen when you were living elsewhere and you carried it with you?
No, it happened when I was living in Liechtenstein, and we kind of went through. So in like secondary school, which would probably be like high school, I guess. We went through our phases of, like I don't know, listening to rubbish, and then starting to listen to hip hop, and then starting to listen to punk and metal. And we were always the punks. We were always against everyone else. We also have a huge, or we had, well, we still do. We have a problem with right wing fascist neo Nazis in Liechtenstein. They're probably just more undercover now, because not everyone looks like a Nazi.
Yeah,
Closet Nazis. Um, and so yeah, that would be like our first like experience with punk rock and stuff like that. And then we slowly start going to shows, but like yeah, as you can imagine, there wasn't much going on regarding that back then. And then we turned 18 and we were allowed
where were
to
you going to
drive.
shows though? What was the
So
closest city that you
Lindau,
would go to? Okay.
Lindau was a big one for like especially punk shows. We weren't into the whole hardcore thing. These kind of came along, and then we were like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is sick. The energy on this is maximum level. And so we started going and looking around
Yeah.
for shows. Zurich opened up to us, like we started going to Zurich loads. There was some good clubs. Yeah, Zitzers, which is very close, that had amazing shows. I still don't know how they managed to keep up that level of amazing shows, because there was rarely anyone there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We saw some sick bands there, and there was like 20 people in the crowd or something.
That's amazing.
Uh,
That's amazing. It's interesting that you mentioned the casualties. I think that, um, regardless of how people feel about them or their music, I think they deserve a lot of credit because they were a band that went. They've gone so deep into so many countries.
yeah.
Uh, they've just. It, it's. I think their legacy is going to be that they've gone further than pretty much any of their peers. In terms of where they've been in Russia, where they've been in Europe, where they've been in South America, where they've been in Mexico. So just as a side tangent, again, for those just tuning in, this is my friend Finlay. Sorry, the connection's a little weird, but this is Finlay Davey. He's from Liechtenstein in Europe, which is a country that's about the size of Burbank, California. And and we're talking about punk rock growing up in a micronation and being involved in the scene. When did you start playing in bands?
So I had my first ska punk pop band at the age of 14, I guess. 13, 14.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, whom I continued to play music with for a long time after that as well. He had a band. Well, a band. It was him and a guitarist, vocalist.
Yeah.
Practicing in his, like, it was, honestly, it was more like a drinks cabinet. There's a drum kit in there, and like a combo amp, and like both of them already were just kind of crammed in there and playing. And they only played Nirvana covers.
Love it.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're looking for a bass player." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I have some experience in music. I learned how to play the piano. So I guess, like, you can show me how to play the bass. That wouldn't be too difficult, I guess." So I started playing bass in this band. And we were called Psychic. Yeah, we just played in the local youth centers, like, because every of the 11 towns here in Liechtenstein has a youth center for,
Right.
10 to 16, 17-year-olds. And we just play in those venues, like, almost every weekend. We'd go to somewhere else, and none of them were further than like a 20-minute drive. But like, for young kids, for young teenagers, at that age, you don't really get to travel far to go to see shows. So like, your local youth center was the best place to go. So we used to rock up to these shows and just play. And it was always so much fun. We did that for about 2 or 3 years. And then we also got a second guitarist in, and we moved on from playing just Nirvana covers to writing our own songs and stuff. And some of them were absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, that was kind of like the first steps in that. At this point,
It's amazing
like,
how universal that experience is, though.
oh
It's
man,
your experience. You could be telling my story. It's the same thing. No,
that's
but it's
nice.
small town. The people that are in the band are the people that you're friends with. You end up playing instruments sometimes out of necessity because,
Yeah,
well, you need a bass player, so you'll play bass, and then you start playing the towns that are about 20 miles or 20 minutes in your radius, and you kind of go through all of the growing pains of playing shitty cover songs and playing even shittier original songs, and then it
yeah.
all kind of starts to click eventually, which is kind of what happened with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and now the guitarist, like, honestly, like, the band was full of talent, like, and myself absolutely excluded from that. The drummer, unbelievable voice, unbelievable drumming skills, just really good groove. The guitarist was probably one of the most talented human beings that I ever got to work with. At this point, may he rest in peace. He passed a few years back. Unbelievably talented young man. Had the whole world open to him. The guitar was just an extension of his mind. It was unbelievably beautiful to watch him play.
Yeah, my condolences on that. Was that someone that also played in your band Taped?
No, so that was where the kind of the paths split. So the
Okay.
drummer and I kind of wanted to go more in the direction of something heavier, something with more attitude, I guess. And he kind of wanted to go off on the tangent of, like, making it more spacey. I guess at the time there was, like, more substances involved. Just leave it at that. He just kind of wanted to be more like the virtuoso kind of guy, and that. And we were kind of like, no, we want to drive, we want to be, we want to be punk rock, we want to be heavy, we want to have something to say, and blah blah blah. And so we formed Taped, and yeah, quickly, like, friends from other bands that were around at the time, kind of like, we asked them, look, do you fancy playing guitar in this new project thing we have? And this is obviously all still in times where you go to school and, you've got holidays, and, like, you hang out at someone's house for 4 weeks and you write songs and you just mess around because it's fun. It's not work. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, you've got to do it, you know, kind of thing. It just happens because everyone's around each other. And we managed to get Taped going. And then after a few very, very painful cover songs, we we kind of found what we were going for, and we went like down the whole metalcore, hardcore synthesizer thing, which was good fun.
Yeah.
And then when we started drop tuning everything to fucking G, we found what we were going to do. Like we found that metalcore was our thing, and by the time we'd already gathered a little bit of a following as well in Liechtenstein. Before, there was no local or barely any local bands that would pull more than 50 people to a show. And we started suddenly gaining some traction in, you know, Austria, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Germany, and then suddenly people in Liechtenstein were like, "Well, they're doing all that. They must be good." And so
Yeah. That's awesome.
they convinced themselves to come to shows, and oh, we had some fantastic nights.
Yeah. Did you
Which
set
then
out to?
also, I'm sorry,
No, I
carry
was
on.
gonna say, did you set out to then become a promoter as well, or was that just something that happened by default? Um,
Um,
as tape started to grow.
I think it was kind of like, I think it started mainly because it's like so what made Taped possible at all in the first place was Facebook. So, you know, you'd find bands, you know, maybe someone knows someone in a band, you know, like, oh, your cousin knows this guy and he knows another dude and he plays bass in a band in Munich.
Yeah.
And then you know, you'd message him and be like, oh yeah, you're my cousin's friend's friend. Uh, you know, and I've checked out your music and it sounds really cool. Do you fancy coming down to Liechtenstein in exchange for a gig in, you know, your area?
Yeah.
And so I started putting up shows in Liechtenstein. And then after putting up, I think about two or three of them, um, I didn't even have to ask people anymore. People just kind of, you know, got round to me, messaged me saying, like, can you put up a show? You know, blah, 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 what are the conditions? And I always,
Oh, did we lose you?
I guarantee
Oh no.
fair bit of money. And always
Yeah.
kind of just have that option of maybe possibly one day being able to play in their area. So yeah, that kind of just grew along with the band itself.
Yeah. It's interesting that I mean, I find it interesting. Just I sound like a broken record speaking about the universality of that experience, but it really does, I think, it sets us, people like you and I, apart from outsiders, where we have this do-it-yourself ethos, and being involved with this music or with this scene. You know, we might look unruly, we might look homely, or have the mohawks or whatever, and the music might be absolutely unbearable to our parents or our grandparents, but it's all predicated on the idea of helping other people and helping one another and building a community.
Absolutely. Ah, the community part is one thing that I'm really, really, really grateful for was that my mum, unfortunately, you didn't get to meet her because she'd already moved away. But my mum, I remember the very, very first show that we put up, and I was still living with my mum, and it was at this youth center in Liechtenstein. And I was like, oh yeah, so there's a band coming to stay the night. And she was like, how many of them? And I was like, oh, about four or five. And then like it ended up being like eight or nine, you know, like with tour
Yeah.
manager and merch guy and sound guy and whatever. And then it was like, the show's just about to go on. There's a few more. She's like, all right, I'll try and get some beds ready and some mattresses ready and blah blah blah. And she ended up coming down to the show because we were playing as well, and she'd come down to the shows whenever she could. And that night, she was 55 at the time, She came down to a traitor like Judas, which is like a hardcore metalcore combo from Germany, to
Yeah,
their show, and she stage dived for the very first time in her life.
that's great. That is
And from
great.
there on, she's even got their logo tattooed. She didn't have a tattoo before she was 55. And
Oh my
like
god.
2 years later, she got their logo tattooed on her leg because she said that opened my mind to
Wow.
this scene, this unbelievable, like, at first she thought, oh my God, like all these tattooed guys going to be staying in my house, are they going to take the place apart and they're going to steal stuff and blah, blah, blah. And, as we both know, like everyone's just really genuine, really kind, really friendly, really thankful, for any kind of hospitality and love coming their way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's a perfect segue. I need to let the viewers know that you have engaged in a rap battle with your mom now, and I went through. I saw a few videos, and last night I went through and I rewatched all of them. This is insane. This is so entertaining, so good. Um, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it started with your mom reciting a poem
Yes.
that she had written about just kind of the general ickiness of life
Situation.
in
Yeah.
quarantine. Yeah. And then you kind of responded with a song where like you kind of dissed her, and then she came back at you with another poem that was a little bit more directed at you, and then the gloves were off. The next song you released was just the most brutal thing I'd ever heard. Um, so I have so many questions, but first, your mom, where does your mom live?
So my mum now lives in Brittany, France,
Okay.
like in the western part of France, where her mum lives, so my grandma lives, um, and my aunt lives also. So yeah, she's moved out there for her forever home by the beach. We bought a house together um, a year ago, a bit more, well, a year and a half ago, yeah. But just by the beach, and that I knew that was her dream for like since I can remember. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
yeah, we decided to join forces and buy that house together. And yeah, so she's in like I would say a pretty hefty lockdown. Like France was a little bit more strict with the lockdown situation than Liechtenstein.
Hmm.
And so she was starting to go a little bit like I would say stir crazy. Like yeah, um, yeah, that's right. She also she recited a beautiful poem, which the only diss that I didn't even diss her. I just took her song and or took her poem, made a song out of it, made a rap song out of it, added a chorus, and okay, I guess I did it in an American accent, just because I don't know, old school hip hop to me is just more, it's just American. And
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it. I just kind of went for that. And she came out with this video, and like, I think I was, so yeah, like my lockdown situation's been a bit funny. So I've been working this whole time.
Okay.
I've not been on lockdown. So I was at work, and then suddenly someone messages me and is like, "Yo, that video that your mom put out against you," and I'm like, "No, no, it's just a poem. It's not about me." They're like, "No, the one that she just released like a couple of
With the
minutes
wig.
ago."
Yeah.
Uh, was it the one with the wing?
Yeah.
And I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And then I decided, right, fine, cool, let's do it. I'm so keen. And so I started recording and like just messing around with stuff, and it's been really, really good fun. It's been great practice, for writing,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's been a fun journey. People have been enjoying it. I've been enjoying getting some feedback on it as well, and I'm glad that it made your day a
Yeah. I
little
mean,
bit better.
I'm impressed that she can dish it out, but she obviously must also be able to take it because um, it's not vulgar, but like you say some things that
No,
like
you could say to your mom, like, in a joking fashion. Has there ever been a time where anything you've said has kind of crossed the line, where she called you up and she was like, Finlay, that was a little too much?
Maybe the thing with the gin and tonics.
The G&Ts.
Yes, the
Yeah,
G and T's.
yeah,
That was one that when I was writing it, I was like, "Wow, that's for someone, to come at someone that used to have an alcohol problem with their alcohol problem." It was like, I'm not sure if I want to go down that road.
yeah.
But then I thought, you know what, fuck it, it doesn't matter. And also, I just want to, say this. I I didn't curse once.
Right. Yeah, it's
She
PG.
did. She did, but it was very covert. She went, shit. So it was kind of like, I'm not sure if that's a borderline cursing there, but I didn't actually. I made sure, because I don't believe that you have to cuss to bring a point across.
Yeah.
Cussing
No,
necessarily.
no, it's interesting, like the way that you're turning phrases and the way that you're kind of going in from, like, the one song was kind of just like one giant verse, and then the next one like had like a little bit more of a structure to it, which was interesting. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's not vulgar. It's PG. It's funny. It's obviously in good fun, and your mom's a great
Oh
singer
yeah,
for it. I
she's
think,
great.
yeah, was something. I mean, my friend Joe was saying I have to have your mom on the Berman Hour now to
I'd
give her a
love to.
chance to
I'd
respond.
love to, but trying to explain Instagram to her would drive me nuts.
Well, if you're able to do it, she's welcome anytime. I would love to
Okay.
have her on the show. Yeah.
Oh man, I'll try my best. I might have a cousin up there that might be able to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. That would be wonderful. So you said you've been working through this whole pandemic at this point. What effects have you seen in Liechtenstein and kind of within your personal life? Anything that you're willing to share about what you've been experiencing amidst this pandemic?
So they shut the borders off to Austria quite quickly, I'd say.
Okay.
So Austria was like a no-go zone. You couldn't really go in or out of Austria. But then, so as I don't work on building sites, but I basically work in a tangent to that. So I set up fuse boxes and build fuse boxes that then go to building sites. And as long as the builders are still working, which was always the case, we just continued work. So my boss even said, like, I'd love to send you home and just pay you 80% of your wage, which is the kind of done thing here if you were, if you weren't allowed to go to work. You still get 80% of your wage for not actually going to work.
That's very good. That's very good, considering what we're fighting for in America, which is like pennies on the
Yeah, I
dollar.
mean, I think from what I've heard about America, the situation has not been very great at this point. Shout out to the bitchy shit show that keeps me informed on all the leftist media stuff in America at any given time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no. So I've been working every single day since the pandemic kind of hit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, we've never had to wear masks. We've never had to do anything like specially. Um, but like, except maybe like supermarkets, they were only allowed to let 100 people in. So you had to take a number. And in the worst case, you had to just wait to
Yeah.
go in. But yeah, so that hasn't been too dramatic for me. What I have noticed, though, is just the amount of money that I've saved by not going out and not eating out, especially.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's been crazy. It's been eye-opening and brilliant. I cook for myself every single day, and I seem to save so much money, which I'm just reinvesting in tattoos,
Nice.
the local business.
And the new Enter Shikari record, which I'm sure you bought in every vinyl variant that there is, right?
Actually, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't buy it in every vinyl variant. I bought it in. Hang on, give me a second. I bought it in the nerdiest one, which is.
But of course,
Of course, I bought it. No, I bought it in. I bought it in this fucking bad boy. Ah, so good. So they have one. So okay, this is my darkest secret. I always thought like fan clubs were kind of a bit weird, like for strange people. And I am officially part of the Enter Shikari fan club.
Embrace it, man. You are part of the weird now.
Man, I am not ashamed. And they did one variant, which was half gold, half white splatter.
Oh, beautiful.
Which is only for fan club members.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Berman Hour today. This has been really fun and just absolutely fascinating.
Anytime.
I can't thank you enough. And if you get your mom on Instagram, she's welcome as a guest anytime. And
I will do my best. I'm not going to get her to actually join Instagram because so far it's been a mum-free zone. But I might be able to get someone that is on Instagram to do the necessary to get her on.
To be the conduit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I hope to see you again at some point in 2021.
Oh man, definitely.
I knew I wasn't going to be seeing you in 2020 anyway because I was never planning on touring. Oh, there's the note. Oh my goodness.
I still have it. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, well, thanks again, and I hope to see you in 2021, man. And until then, stay safe.
And you, man.
It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you and catch up, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you very, very much. And just one thing. I'm going to start interviewing you now.
Okay.
So, what time is it with you guys?
It is 12:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. So it's not G&T time.
Not quite. I mean, it could be. But, when I had this idea, it was because I wanted to try to catch up with friends of mine around the world that were going through this simultaneously and to see what they were going through. And I named it the Berman Hour because I figured it would be something I would have a drink with. It would always just kind of be a happy hour occasion. And this is now the 15th show, I think, and I haven't had an alcoholic beverage.
Oh, no.
Or maybe one, the first one that I
okay.
Where my wife
I heard that voice in the background there.
Yeah. We had champagne, that's right. So 1 out of 15. But yeah, G&Ts are my thing as well, and sometimes G&S, gin and sodas, or sometimes just straight gin. But I am a gin guy, but I have not indulged on the Berman Hour yet. I've been drinking lots of water and lots of coffee and lots of tea.
Good. Well, that does sound like the more healthy kind of way of going about it.
Well, like
I've got gin that's basically, it's a multi-use gin. You can use it to take the nail varnish off your nails, clean your apartment, and also it does serve as gin.
Lovely. That's great. That's great. But like you've noticed with the money that you saved by not going out to eat, we share that sentiment here, and we don't go out to bars very much to drink. I mean, very rarely, but the fact that we're doing it not at all means we're still saving that much more. So yeah, it's been eye-opening as well.
Have you done any like online shows or something like that?
I have. I've done about 4 or 5. I think I've done 5. 2 of them were on my own Instagram, and then the rest were hosted by others, by labels or other things. It's something that I think I'll grow into a little bit more. Obviously, I like it, but I don't love it, and I think a lot of artists kind of feel that way. kind
Yeah.
of like a resignation to the only thing there is at this point. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. Do you like watching them when you see that artists are live and doing that?
Well, so as we speak, Enter Shikari has just gone on live, I think, on 5 for 5 festival. So it's an
Right.
completely online festival. And they were on. Don Broker was on yesterday, and some other like cool British bands and shit were on yesterday and today again. And I think the main thing for me is the sound quality.
Yeah.
Like, if the sound quality is dope, I'm gonna check out. Like that Post Malone Nirvana set he did with Travis Barker. That was probably one of the best things I saw live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the Biffy Clyro stuff I thought was cool. Like the stuff that worked well with the acoustic guitar and stuff, I thought that was cool. But yeah, as soon as the sound kind of gets a little bit dodgy, I'm out. Like I don't really need to. It's like I don't take videos at shows because I don't want to see that moment in shit quality again. You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
so
Yeah.
I'd just rather not have it.
Yeah, I fell down a rabbit hole of trying to really lock in a good sound just for my voice and my acoustic guitar, and it was it was a painful couple of days of troubleshooting with the software, with hardware programming, and all this stuff. And there's something wrong with my setup, and because I'm in the middle
Okay.
of a move, as you can see,
Yeah.
I don't have the patience or time to deal with it. But once I'm in my new home, I'm going to be diving into that, and then at that point, it'll be worthwhile for me to invest in some new gear. I just didn't want to get anything and then have to schlep it across the country and
Of
all that.
course. Yeah. Where are you
Yeah.
moving to then, if I may
Uh,
be so
yeah.
inquisitive?
No, this is great. I haven't been interviewed yet. We're moving from Los Angeles, which is on the West Coast, to a town called Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is on the East
Ah.
Coast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Cool.
Yeah.
And why the move? Like, just
Uh, it was just time. That's where I grew up. My family is still there. My wife really loves the town, and I love it as well. And it just kind of made sense. You know, we feel like we were priced out of Los Angeles, as a lot of people feel like they are. And
yeah.
we wanted to move somewhere where we could be part of a community, we could establish roots, and we could afford a lifestyle that we wanted to. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that wasn't Los Angeles anymore, so it was Lancaster.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're going to be closer to your family, which is very nice as well, obviously.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
take it you have a good relationship with your family then in that case, otherwise you wouldn't be moving halfway across the country.
For the most part, yeah. There's been bumps in the road, but for the most part, yeah, it's been pretty good.
That's what they're for, isn't it? The family is always there to bounce back on.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Cool,
man.
man.
Well,
Like, do you have
I'll
any
let you
plans of
enjoy the
touring?
rest of your.
Oh yeah,
What you
sure,
say?
man. Do you have any plans for touring already? Like for next year? Do you even know? Like, I guess at the moment the situation is so unstable. Like shows have been postponed and repostponed and cancelled now, and like so, the earliest I see anything happening is like summer next year.
Yeah, I had a plan this year to do two tours. I was going to try to do 2.5 weeks in Europe, and I was going to try to do 2.5 weeks in the States, and that was it. I wasn't going to try to play any shows beyond that because I knew that we were moving, um, and I was going to release a new record in the fall that I felt would be pertinent to release before the election that we have upcoming in November. Um, for obvious political reasons, and this is a much more political record for me, so I really wanted that out. Um, and now I've just kind of resigned to the fact that none of that is going to happen, and
Oh,
I
fuck.
probably won't have the record done, which is fine because I can't tour on it anyway. So uh, I'm going to spend this summer kind of remapping out what I think I should do, and that also includes career work and family planning and all of that stuff. So a new record and touring will be part of that, but it's just not going to be as much as it was for the
Yeah.
last album cycle. And that's good. That's a good thing. You know, I'm looking forward to kind of having a better a better balance of home life and work life and tour life than I've had in the last few years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. The political situation in the States right now, where are you on that, if I may?
No, you may. It's disheartening. And so obviously I'm not really much of a Democrat per se, but I'm obviously not a Republican, and I'm not a fascist, so therefore I'm not a Donald Trump supporter. And what has happened in the last 4 or 5 years has been this kind of ever constant culture war where everything, no matter what it is, kind of becomes politicized. And I've spent a long time trying to be like, well, you know, like, for example, I love my dad, but my dad was a big George Bush supporter, but I'm not going to go home and tell my dad to go fuck himself. You know what I mean? Like, we can still have the debate, and we could, you know, and we did, and we had the debates and we had the arguments. But what's happened with Trump and what I predicated a lot of the songs on the new record about are starving people who support Trump, even if you're related to them, even if they're some of your closest friends or your coworkers. It's starving them of the oxygen that they need to exist, figuratively, and robbing them of any sort of platform that they can use to expunge their misinformation. And so I think you have a lot of people that are in our generation who have baby boomer parents that may support Trump, or at the very least, they acquiesce to a lot of what he says and does, without regard to how the world really works outside of what they see on TV. So I've been noticing that there's been this divide, and people in the media like to talk about it like it's Republican or Democrat, or there's left wing or right wing or whatever. But it's a lot deeper than that. And thinking about this consumed my thought process around this new record, and it's consumed my thought process about all art and community organizing and everything. So my goal for this year around the record was to kind of create a campaign where, you know, like, if you really want change, like, we need to get off of social media and start talking to our family members and our neighbors that are Trump supporters, in the hopes that he can be defeated in November. But, you know, it's a long-winded answer, but
No, that's.
I'm tired of feeling despondent about it, or feeling shocked that it even happened to begin with. But I felt like what I was like for 3 years. Now I'm pissed, and I'm not ashamed to say that you, citizen who is misinformed, I respect you as a citizen, but in fact, if you're going to judge me as a liberal elitist, you're right, because I am liberal, and I am elitist because I am smarter than you, because I am informed, and I want to work with you to help bridge that gap. But if you're just going to stay on your platform of misinformation and lies and fascism, then there's no more conduit between us. We're done. You're out. I'm not involving you in my life. I'm not involving you in my social circles. And
not wasting your energy on that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm tired of, like, I want to engage. I'm tired of yelling at people. I'm really sick of the echo chamber of the internet with all of this. And I'm not reinventing the wheel with any of these songs that I've written and recorded, but I think that they strike a nerve that is a little bit deeper than trying to be anti-Trump for the purpose of, you know, trying to be punk or whatever, you know. Yeah.
Do you find that there's been a shift in, so like you briefly said, like, you know, that I'll say Republicans kind of more considered right and Democrats like left, but do you not find that the Democratic party has shifted more and more to the middle as like the years go on? Like, I find that when I listen to some of the stuff, it's like that's not even like very left anymore. Like Bernie Sanders, I thought was gonna, I would say, was gonna be my call for the whole situation. I was like, I would have backed him 100% probably on that. Same like within the UK, I would be a big Jeremy Corbyn supporter. Because he has done for, look at his back catalogue of actions that he's done. Same with Bernie Sanders, for years and years and years, or decades. And then just people coming out that I find very questionable, and their policies pretty questionable as well, like in the States or in the UK as well.
Yeah.
Look at it that way.
I was a Bernie supporter, and I was proud to be a Bernie supporter. I think what happens frequently in America, it happens everywhere, but I think more so here perhaps, is that there's a difference between being a good. Bernie Sanders was not a good candidate. Bernie Sanders would have been a great president. Bernie Sanders is a great senator. But yeah, and he's a great person. He's a compassionate person who gives a shit about working people and poor and suffering people. And that is the antithesis of who we have in the Oval Office right now. But I don't think that Bernie Sanders was necessarily the greatest candidate, which is fine. He has flaws. And I think what people see in the media, and I think what people see overseas especially, is the kind of tenor that they get is that, for example, you see the Democratic Party shifting kind of to the center and not being so left. And I think that is a result of people being timid about Sanders as a candidate, not about him as a person. So
yeah.
In the age of Trump, everything needs to be a surefire thing or like a safe bet. To me, Bernie was a safer bet to beat Trump than Joe Biden. The majority of voters in America felt differently. But at least they voted. And this is, albeit notwithstanding, before the pandemic made primary voting next to impossible and difficult and dangerous. But until then, the people who voted, Biden got a lot of support. So, he won the Democratic primary, and he deserves to be the one because that's the process. So, it's not my first choice, obviously, but it's not wrong to say that a candidate is flawed, and I think
absolutely they are only human.
Yeah, and I think the Sanders campaign and he were flawed in a way that garnered less votes. I mean, it's like saying, a football team or soccer team was flawed in the way that they didn't garner as many points as the other team. There has to be a loser. But I think that his campaign, the legacy of Bernie Sanders and his campaign, is that he's inspired a big chunk of this younger generation to A, get involved in politics, B, get involved with left-leaning politics, and C, to learn from some of his mistakes, which was, I think he branded himself kind of poorly. I understand what democratic socialism is, but like a lot of people in America don't. And I would say
needed to be guided by the hand a little bit more on some aspects. Yeah, because even talking to you back in December really like inspired me also to kind of do a little bit more research about like the American politics and follow it a little bit more and look at policies and stuff like that. Not because I'm affected by it or that I have loads of friends in America, but just because I thought it was very interesting and it was very it's just what is it? Oh my God, German and English words. My Christ, it's just very with the time, I guess, like it's always, it's a global thing, isn't it? Like the presidency is a huge thing all over the world. Everyone follows that, probably more than any sporting event or anything, despite what people say or what numbers show. I'd say people are still probably more interested in who's the next president of America, because it might just turn out to be a shithead like Trump.
Yeah.
So
I think people now understand that the repercussions of, at least I hope, my hope is that people understand a little bit more about fascism and authoritarian rule and recognizing those symptoms before somebody like Trump gets into office. And they also now understand the result of being apathetic. A lot of people stayed home in 2016. A lot of people voted but didn't vote for Hillary because they didn't like her, which is fine. But we've now seen the results of that. And my hope is that people don't take the same approach to Joe Biden. With a Biden presidency, we have a shot of making significant change for the better. Without a Biden presidency, we don't have a shot.
No.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Fingers crossed.